Hello dear learners, I am Hemant Raje, English teacher. Today we are going to discuss lesson 7 of our Honeycomb main course textbook, and the title of today's discussion is The Invention of Vita Wonk. Dear learner, though this lesson is based on scientific humor and imagination, so dear learners, before moving on to the lesson, I just want to give you a brief introduction about the author. So here is. The name of the author is Roald Dahl, and he was born on 13th September 1916 and he died on 23rd November 1990 at the age of 74 in England. Now as far as the occupation has been concerned, he was novelist, poet and screenwriter, and he belonged to the period of 1942 to 1990, and as far as his interest area of writing has been concerned, he used to write the genre like fantasy and suspense, and he served in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War, and he also became a fighter pilot. He has been referred to as one of the greatest storytellers for children of the 20th century. Now, as far as the awards have been concerned, you see, he won World Fantasy Award for Life Achievement in 1983 and also British Book Awards in 1990, and he also won Children's Author of the Year in 1990. So dear learners, this is all about a piece of information about the author. If you want to get some more information, then you can go to encyclopedia. So dear learners, before moving on to the lesson, I just want to ask you some interesting questions. Who are the oldest people you know? What are the oldest things you have in your house, in your city, town or village? How old are they? So dear learners, I am sure that these questions will be interesting for you. Try to find out the answer of these questions. And have you ever wished that you were older? Have you wished that you could grow up in a hurry? So dear learners, at some point of time we feel like that if we could have wings like birds, then we can fly in the sky, and we also feel like that if we grow up in a hurry, then we can drive motorcycle and cars, something like that. So these are some of the questions that may come to in your mind. Dear learners, before moving on to the lesson, I just want to discuss with you two words. These are discovery and invention. Now, as far as the discovery has been concerned, a discovery is recognizing something for the first time that already exists. For example, how Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas. Actually, Americas was already there, but Christopher Columbus was the person who discovered the Americas. Now moving ahead, here is another word that we are going to discuss. That word is invention. Dear learners, I just want to discuss the second word, that is invention. An invention is creating something totally new with one's own ideas and development. For example, how Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. So dear learners, I just want to discuss with you the characters of this story. The first character is Mr. Willy Wonka, who is an inventor, and the second one is Charlie, and the third one is Oompa Loompa. And about all these characters you will come to know when we will proceed with the lesson. So dear learners, I just want to discuss with you some key points of this lesson. Now here, Mr. Willy Wonka, the scientist, invents a medicine named as Wonka White. Actually, this medicine makes people younger, but Wonka White is too strong. So, some people disappear because their age becomes minus. So dear learners, Mr. Willy Wonka must invent a new thing, Mr. Wonka said. So once again he squeezed his brain searching for the new recipe. Actually, firstly, Mr. Willy Wonka invented a medicine, and the name of that medicine was Wonka White, that makes people younger, and by swallowing some drops of that medicine, some people disappear and their age became minus. So dear learners, moving ahead in this lesson, you can see in this picture, now ideas were beginning to come. Now he was thinking that what is the oldest living thing in the world and what lives longer than anything else. He has to create a medicine. By using that medicine, a person can grow older. So this was the concern of Mr. Willy Wonka. So Mr. Wonka mentioned different kinds of trees in the lesson. They are Douglas fir, oak, cedar, bristlecone pine tree, and he tells that bristlecone pine tree lives the longest for more than 4,000 years. He says we can find this upon the slopes of Wheeler Peak in Nevada, USA, and also so he jumped into the Great Glass Elevator and rushed all over the world. Actually, Great Glass Elevator is a kind of lift, and he collected many different items from the oldest living things they are. Dear learners, I am just going to read out all the living oldest things that had been collected by Mr. Willy Wonka. I am going to read all these things one by one for you. A pint of sap from a 4,000-year-old bristlecone pine, the toenail clippings from a 168-year-old Russian farmer called Petrovich Gregorovich, an egg laid by a 200-year-old tortoise belonging to the king of Tonga, the tail of a 51-year-old horse in Arabia, the whiskers of a 36-year-old cat called Crumpets, an old flea which had lived on crumpets for 36 years. Now here are some more. The tail of a 207-year-old giant rat from Tibet, the black teeth of a 97-year-old grimalkin living in a cave on Mount Popocatépetl, the knuckle bones of a 700-year-old cataloo from Peru. So dear learners, these were some of the oldest living things that have been collected by Mr. Willy Wonka. Now dear learners, after collecting all these oldest living things, he went to his invention room and Mr. Wonka prepared a black liquid by boiling and mixing of different parts of different living things. After the preparation of that medicine, he gave 4 drops of that black liquid to a 20-year-old man named as Oompa Loompa. Actually, Oompa Loompa was the volunteer who swallowed the 4 drops of that liquid to check what will be the effect of that medicine. Now, volunteer who swallowed 4 drops of the new invention became old, began wrinkling and shriveling up all over, and his hair started dropping off and his teeth falling out, and he turned into an old fellow of 75. The name of the invention was Vita wonk. So dear learners, this is all about the invention of Vita wonk, how this invention has been done by Mr. Willy Wonka. Dear learners, though this is an imaginative story, but I am sure that after gone through this lesson, it will help you to develop a scientific temperament amongst you. So dear learners, moving ahead, I just want to discuss with you some new words. Here are. Now the first word is disappear. Now the meaning of this word is vanish or invisible. Another word is giant, man of great size, knuckle, bone at the finger joint, elevator, a kind of lift. Moving ahead, here is another word, that is swallow. It means drink. Squeeze, means press hard. Now the last word is grimalkin. It means a cat, particularly an old female cat. So these are some of the new words that you may find in the chapter. Now moving ahead, here is the pronunciation corner. I am going to read all these words one by one for you. Try to listen them attentively. Now the first word is Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka. Wonka white. Wonka white. Wonka white. Disappear. 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 Recipe. 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 Bristlecone pine. Bristlecone pine. Bristlecone pine. Dendrochronologist. 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 Ounce. 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 Oompa loompa. Oompa loompa. Oompa loompa. Volunteer. 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 Fantastic. 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 Wrinkling. 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 Shriveling. 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 So dear learners, this is all about the pronunciation of some difficult words. Try to listen them carefully. Now dear learners, in this story you will find a new terminology that I am going to discuss with you here. Now that word is dendrochronology. Now dendrochronology means a way of calculating dates and the age of objects by counting the rings that appear inside tree trunk. So dear learners, this is all about dendrochronology, and if you want to get some more knowledge about this word, then you can go to encyclopedia or you can explore on the net. Now moving ahead, dear learners, I just want to discuss with you some grammar related activity. Now I am going to read some sentences. Try to observe the pattern or try to observe some verbs that have been used in these sentences. Now the first sentence is, I squeezed my brain. I jumped into the great glass elevator. He swallowed it. Now dear learners, you can see in the starting three sentences here, in the main verb ed has been added, and this is basically a simple past tense verb that has been used here. So try to observe the use of these verbs. And the fourth sentence, that is I knew it, this is an irregular verb that has been used here. It also belongs to past indefinite tense. Now moving ahead, in fifth and sixth sentence, the ideas were beginning to come, and the last sentence is it was fantastic. So dear learners, in the last two sentences, that is fifth and sixth, you see these sentences belong to the past progressive tense, and were and was are the verbs that are used in the past progressive tense or past continuous tense. So dear learners, here is a comprehension check. Some of the questions are there, so I am just going to discuss with you. Here is the first question. Choose the right answer. Mr. Willy Wonka is. So you can find some options. The first option is a cook, an inventor, or a manager. So I expect you all that you can give the answer of this question very easily. Actually, Mr. Willy Wonka in this lesson is an inventor. Moving ahead, Wonka white makes people older or younger. So obviously Wonka white makes people younger. Here is another objective question. Mr. Wonka wants to invent a new thing which will make people younger or older. Obviously he tried to make a medicine which can make people older. So dear learners, here is the second question for you that I am going to read. Can anyone's age be a minus number? What does minus 87 mean? Minus 87 means a person has to wait for 87 years to come back again. So this is the expected answer for this question. So dear learners, here you have to recall what were the questions that came to the mind of Mr. Willy Wonka. Now the first is, what is the oldest living thing in the world? And the second one was, what lives longer than anything else? So these were the two questions that came to or that strike to the mind of Mr. Willy Wonka. So dear learners, now we are going to discuss working with the text. Now here are some questions that we need to discuss. The first question is, what trees does Mr. Wonka mention? Which trees does he say lives the longest? Now try to recall from the story or from the chapter, what trees does Mr. Wonka mention? I feel Douglas fir, oak and cedar, and also a bristlecone pine tree. These were some of the trees that have been mentioned in the lesson. And which tree does he say lives the longest? So it was a bristlecone pine tree that lives the longest for more than 4,000 years. How long does this tree live? Where can you find it? Dear learners, we have seen in this story that this tree lives for more than 4,000 years, and we can find this tree on the slopes of Wheeler Peak in Nevada, USA. Dear learners, here is the second question that we are going to discuss. How many of the oldest living things can you remember from Mr. Wonka's list? Don't look back at the story. Do you think all these things really exist, or are some of them purely imaginary? So dear learners, try to recall from the story or from the lesson, how many oldest living things can you able to recall, or try to note down this answer in your notebook. Dear learners, I am going to read third question for you. Why does Mr. Wonka collect items from the oldest things? Do you think this is the right way to begin his invention? Dear learners, I am going to leave this question for you. Try to explore the chapter or try to find out what is there in this question, and try to write the answer of this question in your own words in your notebook. Now moving ahead, here is the fourth question that I am going to discuss. What happens to the volunteer who swallows 4 drops of the new invention? What is the name of the invention? So dear learners, actually the volunteer who swallowed 4 drops of the new invention became old, began wrinkling and shriveling up all over, and his hair started dropping off and his teeth falling out, and he turned into an old fellow of 75. So in this way, the Vita wonk has been invented by Mr. Willy Wonka. Dear learners, I am going to read out, or I am going to discuss with you an interesting activity, and I am sure that this activity you will find very much interesting. So you see, working with language, what do you call these insects in your language? I am going to read out the name of all these insects for you. The name of the first insect is cockroach, second one is mosquito, and the third one is grasshopper, fourth one is housefly, fifth one is dragonfly, and the last one is ant. So dear learners, how do these insects affect your health? Have a discussion in the class. So the first thing about this activity is that try to find out what you call all these insects at your home or in your local language, or try to find out what are the effects of these insects on your health. Dear learners, today we are going to learn how to make palak dal. So here is a recipe that we are going to discuss. So fill in the blanks in the recipe given below with words from the box. So here is the help box. Now you can find some of the words that are there. The first word is shred, cooker, times, tomatoes, half, onion, and the last one is oil. So as far as the ingredients has been concerned, now you see, I feel like there should be 1 onion, 1 cup dal, 2 thin green chilies, and I can take half a teaspoon red chili powder, 8 small bunches of palak, 2 tomatoes, salt to taste. Now we will discuss the process of making palak dal. Here you can take the help of your elders or your parents or your mother at your home to make this easy palak dal. First, wash and cut the vegetables, and I should take a word I think from the help box, shred the palak. Put everything in a pressure cooker. Let the cooker whistle 3 times, then switch it off. Fry a few cumin seeds in oil and add to palak dal. So this is a recipe that we have discussed to make easy palak dal. You can try it at your home with your elders or with the help of your mother. So dear learners, this is all about the activity to make easy palak dal. Dear learners, here I find another interesting activity for you that is there in this lesson, that is family tree. Now you see, a family tree is a diagram that shows the relationship between the different members of a family. Fill in the family tree below with names, ages, and other details you think are relevant. You may even stick photographs if you have them. Put your family trees up in the class. So you can see, dear learners, this is a family tree. You can go through this family tree, and by taking the help of this family tree, you can make your own family tree. How many family members are there in your family? Try to stick the photographs if you have, and I am sure that this activity will be helpful for you. Dear learners, I am going to discuss with you the last activity of today's discussion, that is assignment. You see, make a list of the trees Mr. Wonka mentioned. Where do these trees grow? Try to find out from an encyclopedia. Write a short paragraph about 2 or 3 of these trees. So dear learners, this is a first activity that you need to do. After reading this lesson, I am sure that you will be able to do it easily. Here is another activity, that is name some large trees commonly found in your area. Find out something about them. How old are they? Who planted them? Do birds eat their fruit? And write 2 or 3 sentences about each of them. Dear learners, try to complete this assignment and also the activities that we have discussed in this lesson, and I am sure that this will help you to develop a different kinds of perspective. Till then, I take a leave. We will meet with some more interesting topic. Till then, have a nice day. Bye bye.